On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are sliding into a classic submarine suspense show with xenophobic overtones as we review Star Trek 109, Balance of Terror, right after these words from our mystery Romulans. Welcome into Star Trek Universe. I'm David C. Roberson. I've seen it all.
I am Effie Ophelders, and I've never heard of Star Trek. What are we doing here?
I don't know. I thought you'd heard of it at least 8 times before.
Yeah, roughly. I think so. Now that you mention it, I think that was the show. Yeah. I've watched a couple episodes.
Yeah. You've watched 9 now.
Yeah.
With this episode. That's crazy.
This was Star Trek as well, because I was sure it was Star Wars.
No.
There was a lot of war.
No,
Fuck.
Yeah.
Must have been mistaken.
It was Star Trek War about 10 years before Star Wars War. So.
Yeah, no, that much I knew. I have my decades sort of straight on.
Right. We got a synopsis from Memory Alpha, and it's kind of all you need. The Enterprise battles a Romulan ship suspected of destroying outposts near the neutral zone.
That's pretty much all that happens, yep.
Yeah. And once again, high-level thoughts, Effie. What did you think of this episode?
Enjoyable, like I said. There was a lot of just the space war suspense where I did feel like, oh yeah, this is more realistic because it would take a fucking while for anything to hit anything and you'd just be trying to outmaneuver each other. I did like a couple of the things where you're just like, oh yeah, you're there, there's a reflection and you're just following and like cheating the systems and hoping they there was a bit of more of a tactical angle to it, which I enjoyed. But it is mostly a fun episode for the world building, where I'm like, oh, we're introduced to a new race of aliens that matters, and this species like descended from Vulcans. Like, that's interesting. Something happened. There was an expansionist era of conquering of space colonialism where you know that is intriguing. There is a bunch of history there, and I do enjoy the character who like has a family history involved with that war still, where there are many mixed feelings. Like, that's interesting stuff. But then there's also the wedding sort of bookending the episode, where I'm like, we didn't do a whole lot with this. He just sort of dies off screen, and then the fiance is consoled for 2 minutes, and I'm like, she's gonna be fine? Really? She's fine. She says she's
She's not, though, but that's the great
No.
That's the great conceit, though, is that like both she and Kirk are putting aside their feelings because they know their duty and they know what they're getting into. They know this is part of that. And I like it for that reason, where it's just sort of like, I will be fine. I'm not now. We got to move on. And
yeah. But that is why I would have loved for the line to just be, I will be fine, instead of I am fine. That was the sort of thing where I'm like, you could have just slightly given me slightly more, because I know it's bullshit. Yeah. But I do want that to sort of shimmer through, because of course, Kirk's comforting is very much this is what happens, and it's for the greater good, and that is an interesting conclusion in and of itself. But I do feel like we get very little out of her as a character, because we haven't seen much of her outside of looking at her fiance, talking to him for like 2 minutes, and then saying she's fine.
But wouldn't it also be interesting is if she was fine, because so much of this episode deals with your like the duty and compartmentalization and knowing what your duty is and putting your own feelings aside. But somewhere in the back of your head, you're still going, this is not what I want. And we've got both. Yeah. We've got this great synchronization of Kirk and the Romulan commander having the same thoughts and the same feelings. Like Kirk saying, like, man, I wish I was on like a long sea voyage somewhere with no responsibilities. Yeah. And the Romulan commander,
this is a lot.
Basically being Steppenwolf from Zack Snyder's Justice League over here, going like, I just want to go home. I tire of this.
I want to end this. but I have my duty. I need to actually win before I can return home, gloriously.
And they do,
not at
yeah.
all.
You mentioned the echo that they created, like mimicking their movements. And we're just seeing a reflection, and it worked on everybody but the Romulan commander, who's like,
Exactly.
"Nah, this is bullshit. Fun. This is what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
this is what I would do."
And that is cool when you have two people who are just measuring dicks and it's close.
Yeah,
that's fun. Whereas like, oh, you're both very capable, and there is a sort of chess match aspect to it, where you do feel that tension of like, oh, how are you gonna outsmart him? What and it comes down to hitting him often enough, eventually. But there is a that was just very fun to also be in a different ship for a bit and get that different perspective and figure out that like, oh, they're really trying to outplay each other in this game, and then of course the conclusion of like, I have to go down with my ship. It makes total sense for this duty filled thing, and it is indeed a great foil for the duty that Kirk has and the weight he feels from that. And I do feel like the wedding, it does end, it does add a nice dimension to the world of like, yeah, of course people are going to meet. There's 400 people. Some of them are going to fall in love. Like that's going to happen. But the idea of her being actually fine, that's interesting. But it's also like, then I would like to see, oh, we're used to having to swallow our feelings for our duty, and like that comes first. So we do compartmentalize. But that's going to do damage eventually psychologically. So like that's an interesting angle to explore, but you don't get that in this single episode, of course.
Yeah, which I almost like that, because when she walks away and then the camera follows Kirk.
Yeah.
Through the corridor, and he's just sort of got this like wistful, contemplative look. Like he's thinking about everything that just happened in this episode and going, this is kind of messed up. Like you could see.
Yeah.
And then we're just like, this is their life. This is what they do. Like we can't like harp on this too long, but this is what it is.
I did really like that outro of just like getting a bit more of that visual and of the world on the ship while the credits roll. That was lovely. That was a nice touch, because it does give that sort of bit of time to let it all sink in, where you are indeed comprehending like, oh yeah, this is also an aspect of their job, because we've had relatively peaceful stuff where it is isolated incidents on the ship, sort of invaders and stuff, but there is a larger scale galactic threat, and there are truces and having to keep the peace, and there's a reason at the end they also make note to say like, oh no, his superiors are okay with supporting whatever he ends up doing, and that's the trust that was also sort of missing throughout the episode because of the delay in getting those messages across, where Kirk would love to hear some guidance and be like, fuck, I have to make these choices because I'm not gonna get orders right now. That's gonna take too long, and I need to make the call whether or not to pursue them into the neutral zone.
Yeah, and you mentioned world building. They did a fantastic job. The writer, he created the Romulans, and what was his name? Schneider, Paul Schneider, I think. Yeah, he created them from stem to stern, pretty much, at least, and they were so well rounded. Like you got such a interesting picture into their society, and the fact that like
just the little interactions with his underlings, it's very clear how they, like, what their roles are, how they really work in terms of ranks, and actually, like, there is that obedience, that duty. There is a very strict militarization of the society, and that's cool to see.
But a lot of deception, because like the older Romulan, I can never remember what his stupid title is. But he, like, after the commander tells that one dude off, he's like, you realize he's got
Centurion, I think.
The Centurion, yeah. He's got powerful friends. What is the line? I actually put it down. Okay, yeah. He has friends, and friends of his kind mean power, and power is danger. And the Romulan commander says, "Danger and I are old companions." Like,
Yeah.
I'm not scared by this asshole.
Yeah.
But like, clearly the Centurion is like, you should be. Like,
Yeah.
you just demoted this dude two steps in rank for doing a thing you told him not to do. And he's like, I was alerting our praetor of our glorious victory.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's some bullshit. We didn't victor.
Yeah. Maybe shut the fuck up if that can be intercepted, you know?
Yeah. That was wonderful. Did you know that the Romulans looked like the Vulcans before this episode? I know you saw 2009 Star Trek, but I didn't know if you remembered.
Oh, no, I don't remember shit, apparently. That is, I remember very little from that movie, I guess. So, no, I didn't remember.
Great.
I saw the turn reveal, and I was at first like, should I recognize this face? And then I was like, oh, no, it's just the ears. We get it.
Yeah, it's because they look like they're Vulcans.
Yeah. Which made sense, but it was at first I was like, is this the same actor as that other dude? Like, are we tying this in? No, it's not.
Yeah,
it's a different guy.
Which is
but
funny.
I am bad with faces.
It's funny that you say that because the guy that plays the Romulan commander will go on to play Spock's father, Sarek, for the next
that's neat,
40 years.
Delightful.
And he plays him differently enough that I buy him as Sarek. Like, and not as Romulan
that's
commander.
Good. Yeah. No, because that would be weird. But no, I was at first. I think I was like, oh, is that supposed to be the guy with the family history, the Styles that suddenly turns up on the bridge. But then I was like, no, just different dark-haired white guy. Whoops.
Also,
because otherwise it would have been a very interesting family history where it's like, one of them crossed over, or there was a marriage of some sort. Like it could have gone there.
Oh, but
no, it was just look at them; they have pointy ears.
Yeah, I like to think that the shock on Spock's face is not just that they have pointed ears. That this dude looks like my daddy. And there could be like a relation there. Because they are offshoots of the Vulcan people.
Some common ancestry, you know.
But hilariously, the guy that he demotes, that the Romulan commander demotes, plays a Vulcan later on in the show. Ah,
right. They just have a couple of guys with the right ears to put points on, and they keep recasting them.
Well, you know, he didn't...
That's interesting.
I don't think he had it. He had the helmet. Because they fashioned those helmets so they wouldn't have to make the ears.
Yeah, that's too much effort. Right.
Yeah. I think it was a monetary issue. The show was like the most expensive thing ever at the time.
And that was also why I was confused at first, because I wasn't sure if all of them had looked like Vulcans.
Yeah.
Or if there was a Vulcan commander in the Romulan ship. And the guys with helmets would be the actual Romulans. Like, I wasn't sure about that yet. Thankfully, it was spelled out because, you know, people like me need that. But you know, at first, I was just wildly speculating.
Yeah, there is an episode where they go to Vulcan, and certain people on Vulcan, certain people of certain status, are wearing those helmets. They're Vulcan Centurions. And it's really kind of neat to be like, oh, yeah, we can use these because they're an offshoot. So they're clearly going to have some of the same customs.
Some remnants of the same culture, that's interesting. That's cool.
Love that. Some of the best world building thus far on the original series.
It does expand the world quite a bit, where it is just more than random planet, random species. Oh no, there's ties, and there's prejudice, and there's people who have an issue with other kinds of non-humans, and that does add a lot of layers to it.
And the fact that, you know, the last time they encountered the Romulans over 100 years ago, they didn't have ship-to-ship communication with them, and they were like fighting with old nuclear warheads. Like, what?
That too. Just like, oh, you're nuking space. That sounds great, wonderful, wise idea.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, I was like, 100 meters from your ship. Y'all are dead. That's not how nukes work. Like, I hope there's a lot of radiation shields in there. I know there are.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we've heard the word, but God, they better be good.
Yeah.
That's close by.
Deuterium hull plating, like, they're good. They're good. It's gonna
Yeah, they're fine.
cause a little damage.
It's a really hard substance.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're too close to the side, you might get some radiation burns. But no, you know, the cancer won't show up for another 2 seasons.
And if it does, McCoy will, like, put his little light salt shaker over you and...
Right.
I can't even do it.
That's what it's for.
There we go.
I sure as shit ain't gonna do it. Like, I can't. That's not gonna happen.
So, I also love Styles. I think he's a dick, but, like, he's, like, all caught up. He's, like, one of these guys, and being from Alabama, I know a lot of these types of guys who are, like, so, like, caught up in, like, the past, who are so, like my daddy and my grandpappy and all these people, like, fought in
we fought
X, Y,
in the
and Z.
Confederacy. I mean,
yeah, like they're like obsessed with the past. They're like hung up on old bigotry, like old, you know, old feuds and shit. And Styles, like, and as he's explaining that he knows all this shit to Kirk's like, their war, Mr. Styles, not yours. And I love that so much. And also I love that Styles exists because there is a cadre of Star Trek fans who anytime on new Star Trek that any human is portrayed as bigoted in any way to introduce conflict, they want to pull out the old Roddenberry's humans weren't supposed to have conflict or bigotry. We're all supposed to be evolved. And I'm like, Roddenberry's human was Mr. Styles as well.
Yeah, and it makes sense because there is, like, even if everyone's evolved, there's still going to be families that keep it alive. It's just not, no society is wholly going to agree on being, you know, accepting decent people. It's hard to get there, as we're seeing in the real world.
I love Kirk telling, you know, when Styles, oh my God, when Styles is like, you can ask Mr. Spock. Under his breath, and Kirk's like, what was that? And he's like, nothing, sir. And he's like, repeat it. I was suggesting that you could ask Mr. Spock. And he's like, leave any bigotry in your quarters. There's no room for it on the bridge. I was like, get him.
Delightful.
I love it.
That was good.
And, of course, Spock saves his life. And he's like, he realizes the error of his ways. But I also love, like, that whole scene in the briefing room where he's like, you don't want to hear from me. He's like, no, I asked you here for your opinion. That's why you're here. Like, what do you... And then Spock's like...
Otherwise, I would have kept you the fuck out.
Yeah. And Spock is like, I agree with him. And Styles is like, huh? Because it's like, Spock is like, no, if these people are indeed offshoots of our culture and they have maintained this concept of war that we used to have.
We used to be, they suck.
We
They're
need
gonna suck.
We need to beat their ass like now.
Yeah. There's no talking to these people.
Yeah. This actually might be one of my favorite episodes.
I really enjoyed this, yeah. The only nitpicks I have are just some bits in the middle where it is kind of waiting for them to do something and then the same shot of like 3 lasers shooting and then back to like the beginning. There is a sort of like one too many repetitions of the what is he gonna do, what am I gonna do anticipation thing, where it is just like maybe one maneuver less would have made it a bit tighter, but other than that, there's just a bunch of stuff happening, and there's a bit of darkness in there too, like the outposts that are just burning and being destroyed, and not all of the camera feeds make sense because they should cut away at some point, but there is I was really expecting like use the grainy, like you have plenty of distorted screens, so like, it's what your TV still looks like, so you should be able to recreate this. But that's like the scientist just getting the feed up and being like, oh no, we're lost, everything is burning, and
his eye was all messed up.
Through
he was
the
like,
shield, yeah.
Oh, that was so dope.
That's dark, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, yo, no, this entire meteorite or whatever they used, an asteroid or something, is now dust, like pulverized. That's that, and they do play it smart enough to have that interaction first, so you know, like, so you have the actual realization of, oh no, it's not an abstract, it's a concrete thing that just now died. And so it's yeah, no, this is a very, very good one. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. McCoy has a great line, something of advice to Kirk, as Kirk is like navel gazing and mulling over all these like decisions, and McCoy says, in this galaxy, there's a mathematical probability of 3 million Earth-type planets, and in all the universe, 3 million galaxies like this one, and in all of that, perhaps more, only one of each of us. Don't destroy the one named Kirk. That is one of my favorite quotes from Star Trek.
I get that. It was a good
I'm pretty sure it's
I'm
incorrect in all ways, but...
Oh yeah, no, don't pay attention to the numbers. It is very much more about the thought than the actual execution. But it is a nice piece of advice, and also a vague enough, broad piece of advice where I'm like, yeah, Kirk could take this a number of ways. Like, don't let them kill me, don't let them destroy my legacy. Like, there's a number of ways you could take that. So it was just a good line, and like having that bit of lead up to it where you're just naming like, oh, how grand the universe is, even if that's partly bullshit, but it is very, very neat to like land that well and have him express that care for his friend as well in the same breath.
Yeah, I think he was specifically speaking to Kirk sort of beating himself up over any decision he could make, and letting that destroy him. But I really enjoy this episode. I love the Romulan commander saying he's a sorcerer. He reads the thoughts in my brain, like just and with as he's about to commit suicide in the name of duty, tells Kirk, "You and I are one of a kind, or you and I are of a kind. In a different reality, I could have called you friend." That is like.
Delightful.
We are creatures of duty, Captain. I have lived my life by just one more duty to perform. Apparently, I don't remember if they filmed this, but in
great trope
in the script, Kirk was supposed to salute him as he blew his own ship up, but they didn't do it. They didn't do it. I was okay with them not doing it though.
Yeah, no, I get that. It would have looked slightly weird.
It would have looked weird.
Especially because there's not, like, is there a lot of saluting? Has there been? Now I'm trying to dig through my archive of memories, but I don't think there's a lot of saluting in this Star Trek military, no.
No, not really. No.
Would have felt slightly out of place, yeah.
Something to look forward to, they wound up doing, on an episode of Strange New Worlds, they did an alternate universe version of this episode. And they recreated the episode, and it was really interesting to watch because it was like altered timeline.
Yeah,
it was cool.
Like some fuckery. Yeah, that sounds interesting. We'll get there in a couple of years.
Yeah, a couple.
I'm an optimist. I have no concept of numbers. There are 3 million episodes in the known universe, and 3 million more in each known galaxy outside of that. Yeah.
But yeah, total fun watch. My main issue with the episode is that at a certain point they're all like whispering as if the enemy ship can hear them.
Yeah, that was interesting where I'm like, okay, so they can sort of bug the other, like they can really, like, okay, because it is a very interesting world building thing where it's like, oh, we can sense motion throughout space, but if you're standing still, like, whoop-de-doo, can't do nothing about that. And that's just very interesting. I like that sort of, like, oh, we have this capacity, but there is a workaround that you have to know. And on that same beat, there is apparently it's possible to just, listen for sounds inside a space hole, which, there's no sound in space. It's kind of weird to get that from a distance, but yeah.
But could your sensors
technology,
and
yeah.
Really upon rewatch, I was noticing that it was really just the Romulans doing it. So like they might not have just been there. I don't know what the hell they have. They might be able to sense us. They might be able to hear us. Who knows?
There was that too, where there was just a bunch of, we don't know what kind of technology the other party has. They have a big ass weapon and some invincibility shield bullshit. So they might be able to hear us. Let's work silently, because I do think there was, like, when Spock was repairing some shit under the circuits, there was a bit of, everyone working quietly with the lights out, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it was mutual, but even then it does work, where it's like, yeah, you don't know if that's going to matter.
Yeah.
You don't want to be picked up by anything, so might as well be quiet.
Yeah.
And that does add to the submarine vibe that you mentioned in the intro, because it is very much that sort of, oh yeah, we're enclosed in a bunch of metal, and it could go wrong very easily.
Absolutely.
It is much more of yeah, it's odd in that sense to see more of a war thing finally, because there's been some conflict, but it's been more one-on-one type thing, and this felt larger with the stakes being interplanetary war.
I don't know. I dig this episode a lot.
Like, there's treaties involved. Yeah, no, I dug it too.
Yeah,
absolutely. More interesting than the last one. It was hard not to keep going, because I was very much tempted, like, but we're not going to record 3 episodes in a row. I'll grow tired. So.
We could.
Yeah, but now we can't, because I haven't seen the next one yet.
I would like to rewatch it before we do that. But yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I may have seen it like 10 or so times, or 40.
Intriguing.
But I don't know. What even is the next episode? Oh, What Are Little Girls Made Of? Yeah, that's one I've maybe seen like 10 or so times. It's not going to be like one of the ones I've watched like 50 or 80 or whatever it is.
No, sure.
But that's
a low one.
That one's the one where Kirk walks around with a giant dick rock, a rock that looks like a dick.
Sure. Good to know.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that was a famous...
Join us next week for...
I'm gonna
dick rock jokes. Rock dick jokes.
I'm gonna send,
rock hard dick jokes.
I'm gonna send you a picture.
Oh no. Oh boy.
I know. I want to get your reaction on air.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna open my messenger thing, because I closed that down just in case a sound escaped, even though I turned off all sound. Right. Yeah, that's the way everyone should look at their rock dick. That makes sense.
I sent you another one.
Like, oh my goodness, no, that's so much worse. No.
I sent Effie a GIF.
The first picture was sort of cut off, so yeah. Oh.
Well, he was like literally like pulling it out of the rock ceiling.
Oh my goodness.
And basically, like, people
that's a dick. Yeah.
People on Tumblr.
That's just a dick.
Have gone crazy with this. They've replaced flowers that shoot spores on Spock from another episode with the dick. They've just got pictures of Kirk in random episodes holding 2 rock dicks. Like, they're just rock dicks everywhere. It's become a whole thing.
Wonderful. Very, very well done.
He's fighting a Klingon with a sword, and instead of the sword, he's holding the giant pink rock dick. Like, it's all over the place. It's become a whole meme.
Goodness.
A whole Star Trek, glorious Star Trek meme.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into the meme side of this fandom. Jesus,
you'll get there. In the next episode.
I'm being trained. This is. I'm looking forward to this episode. That's for sure. God, no one saw that prop and was like, maybe we shave off some bits here and there. Like, none of that.
Nah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was the 60s. People couldn't tell on their tiny TVs if it was a dick or not.
Rock cock. We're gonna have a rock cock.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a teaser for next week if I've ever heard one.
All right. I guess that's
gonna
it.
Be a glorious episode. Yeah, probably. I think we should end on a high note.
Yeah. If you got feedback, StarTrekUcast@gmail.com. Until next time, Joel Untrue, which is Romulan, by the way.
For eat a dick.
No.
Oh, dang it.
Joel Untrue.
It would have been great if it was.
Live long and prosper, and eat a dick.
Right.
As
Absolutely
Effie says.
Eat that dick.
You already said it, but kind of.
No, you get 2 this week. It's fine.
Yeah. Just like Kirk gets 2 rock dicks. Rock cocks.
Absolutely. Get some.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.